Now, Executive Suite with WPRI.com reporter Ted Nesi.
You may not have heard about Providence-based Edesia yet, but Bill Clinton has.
It's a great thing. Creates jobs, creates opportunity here, creates opportunity in countries that we're trying to support.
Founded in 2009 by Navyn Salem, the daughter of a Tanzanian immigrant, Edesia supplies peanut-based, ready-to-use foods to children in developing nations who are suffering from malnutrition. So far, its products have reached more than 1.5 million children. Edesia already employs nearly 50 people at its state-of-the-art factory in Providence, and now it's preparing to expand further as demand grows. This week on Executive Suite, founder and executive director of Edesia, Navyn Salem. Welcome to Executive Suite, Navyn. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And on this Thanksgiving weekend now, by the time you folks are seeing this, I thought it'd be good to talk about food and something really innovative happening with food right here in Providence. So I'm really glad you could be here. First off, why the name Edesia?
Edesia, she's the Roman goddess of food.
That's what I thought. Okay, so it's got a good provenance there. And before we actually dive in between us, I want to hear a little more from Bill Clinton, because it's fascinating that you're on the former president's radar screen. Where are these comments coming from? How did Bill Clinton get to know about Edesia?
I've been a member of the Clinton Global Initiative for the last 7 years. And this is an amazing opportunity to join their annual meeting, where it brings together all the actors, people who have funding, people who have ideas, and people who are on the ground. You really need all three of those to make anything actionable. And you have to make a commitment when you join this annual meeting. And so our commitment was to create a factory in Tanzania and to create one here in Providence as well to manufacture these types of ready-to-use foods.
And this is President Clinton at the Clinton Global Initiative, I think in Chicago a few years ago, right? Mm-hmm. Talking about Edesia.
Correct.
Let's take a listen to what the former president had to say.
That's one of my favorite projects, the one you just saw, because Edesia is a Rhode Island-based company created by an immigrant from Africa to produce a peanut-based food supplement without which children who have AIDS in the countries where we work cannot survive, even if they get the medicine, because their bodies cannot absorb the medicine properly without a nutritional supplement like that. So it's a great thing. Creates jobs, creates opportunity here, creates opportunity in countries that we're trying to support.
Not bad. Far be it for me to correct a former president, but I believe you're the daughter of a Tanzanian immigrant,
correct,
right? You were born here in the States.
Yes, absolutely.
But not a bad summary, I thought, from the former president there. Anything you'd add about the basics of Edesia's mission?
Yeah, I mean, I think what he said is exactly right. And one of the first times that I was back in Tanzania and Rwanda on one of my first research trips was to travel with the Clinton Health Access Initiative, and went to some of these projects that they were supporting, and I actually did see those patients who were getting AIDS medications from the Clinton Foundation. But because they weren't given with food, the medicine was not working. So it's like washing your hands and drying them in the dirt. Mm-hmm. You have to look at it more holistically, and without the food and nutrition component, people, adults and children, can't get stronger, can't get better, can't get back to work, and the cycle continues. So it was actually at a Clinton site 7 years ago where I first saw how important the need of medicine and food together was really important.
That just sending the medicine to people who haven't had enough food is not enough. You need them to be nourished.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about how you do that nourishment. First, just give people a sense. You know, you always see the commercials on television about malnutrition. You see the terrible pictures sometimes from places like Africa. But how big a problem right now today as we sit here roughly is malnutrition globally? How many people are struggling?
Millions. Millions are suffering from severe acute malnutrition, about 20 million, and then in the hundreds of millions who are suffering from moderate acute malnutrition. And really what we do is if you follow the headlines, then that's usually what we're working on in the factory. So you see the Philippines, of course, you see Syria, maybe before that Mali and Chad and other countries in the Sahel, all dealing with either civil unrest, natural disasters, which are becoming more frequent with climate change, or the war in Syria. And so we're always working on what seems to be splashed across the headlines. from a nutritional
And I don't know
standpoint.
if we can ask my control room to be on the fly, if we can zoom in a little bit here, but this is one of the things you're producing right now, and it's for the war in Syria, and people can see when we take a look. You're writing in Arabic here because people need to be able, there we go, you can see that close up there. So you have to move pretty quickly in this factory to be making things on the fly based on where world events are taking things.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, there are some problems with our food aid policy that we have currently, in that we need to have products originate in the U.S. And you might think as a U.S. supplier, I'd be advocating for more business and more jobs here in the United States. But when you see a disaster like the Philippines, we want to get food immediately to those people. You can't wait 3 weeks or 3 months for a product that needs to be produced in Providence to get to the Philippines. And so, you know, for us, we think that that's a really important thing, to have a delicate balance between getting food locally, supporting those farmers. Those people certainly need those jobs more than our American farmers do. And finding that right balance of sending specific nutritionally based products like the ones we make with rice or with regular food that doesn't need to be shipped in from far away.
So let's talk about what is in these products. Some people might have seen on WPRI and CBS a few years ago, 60 Minutes, Anderson Cooper did a piece in 2008 about this plumpy'nut. It's this food, well, I'll let you explain it. What is the food you're making and what makes it so special?
Yeah, so this one's plumpy'nut. It's made with peanuts, milk powder, sugar, vegetable oil, vitamins, and minerals. And the thing that makes it revolutionary is it doesn't need to be mixed with water or refrigerated, because clearly we don't have refrigeration or clean water available in any of these countries that we're working in. So it's ready to use. The other great thing, and one of my favorite things about it, is that it really empowers the mothers who maybe feel like they've failed. That their child is malnourished. They don't want to bring them to the health clinic, which is maybe 20 kilometers away. Perhaps you have 5 other children at home and one who's malnourished. How are you going to get to the clinic? How are you going to leave that child there or stay with them? It's really not practical. So something like this allows them to take it home, treat their children in their own home, continue on with their life, and within about 6 weeks, a child has gone from not having the strength to open their eyes or even hold up their head to be running around like a 1 or 2 year old should be.
So you can send someone home with something that's ready to be just ripped open, and you feed that to your child, and they're getting, it's packed with nutrition, right? That's the point of this, is that you have a little bit of it, and you've got a ton of the nutrients you need.
Right, yes, it's a very dense product, so it has the results, and the weight gain is very rapid, and you can literally see that transformation before your eyes. And when you look at before and after pictures, you really often can't even recognize that that's the same child.
Now, what people are going to be wondering, what does it taste like? What would you compare it to in a food in our regular lives? It might be, is it like medicine? Does it taste good? What's it like?
My kids say it tastes like the inside of a Reese's peanut butter cup. So it's a little grittier than peanut butter because it has milk powder in it, which obviously our Skippy does not. And it is quite sweet, because even if a child is very hungry, they're still picky, and it still needs to taste good so that they're able to eat sometimes 3 of these a day during that treatment period.
And we're coming up against a break, but I want to be clear. It's not that you invented it, and we're going to talk about how it's being made here. What's the actual origin story of this food? Who came up with the idea?
So it was created by a French pediatrician, and a company called Nutriset has been creating these types of products over the last 25 years. And so we are a partner of Nutriset in France and work together to figure out how we can expand on the innovations that they've created over the last decades.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the business model at Edesia and how Navyn is making these products right here in Providence. Stick with us on Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi, and my guest this week for Thanksgiving, we're talking about food, but not turkey and stuffing. We're talking about Edesia, and I'm with the founder and executive director, Navyn Salem. And Navyn, I'm going to go straight to what you were just showing me off the air, which is you brought some props here, which we always love. The different, it's based on the different levels of nourishment someone needs based on their situation, these little children. But show us, if you would, with this. How is this used? This is it's a wristband, basically. What do you do with that to figure out what they need?
Okay, so we've created a whole range of products that treat malnutrition from prevention to acute, to moderate, to severe, and even actually beyond that, but we'll stick with those for now.
Okay.
And so this is called a MUAC tape, which means mid-upper arm circumference.
Okay.
What we're measuring is this part of the arm here on the kids. So we just tuck this through here.
And then see where it lands.
See where it ends up. And what's really the most shocking is that here you can see that this is in the red zone, which is why we have a product that's also color-coded to match that. But this is the size of the upper arm of a 1-year-old,
and
a
we're
2-year-old.
talking like 2 of my fingers would fit in there. That's how small we're talking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so it's actually, it's quite hard to see children who you really can't tell what their age is. You think that it's maybe a 6-month-old and they're actually 2 years old.
Because they're so small and they've had so little nutrition.
Exactly.
So talk about the impact so far of getting this food out there. I mean, I think one thing I believe you said in a different news story I saw that it has like a 95% success rate, right?
Right, yes. If used according to the protocols and there isn't sharing or anything like that and there aren't complications, then children should recover at a very high rate. All of these products are really science-based. There's been a lot of research, a lot of clinical trials to prove that the efficacy is quite high, and that's why we're able to come up with those recovery rates that are so high.
So I want to learn, and I'm sure people do at home, a little bit more about your background. Have you always been into manufacturing? Were you always planning to become a proprietor of a food factory in Rhode Island?
Yeah, never, no. I was in the advertising world before, but then I did have 4 children. And that really changed my focus not from business. I have a business background, but I wanted to use that business background to do something for kids. And with my family being from Tanzania, I thought if we combine all 3 of those, maybe we can solve a whole bunch of problems at once. One being job creation, and secondly, solving a global health challenge like malnutrition. And one of the things that I did on one of my trips to Tanzania was I visited a factory. And I was with a bunch of different NGOs, and they said, well, we should be seeing water projects and health projects. Why do you want to see a factory? I said, I don't know. I'm just really strangely curious about what's going on there. And I went to tour this factory that employed 3,000 women, and they were all making malaria mosquito nets. And there was a line out the door. And I said, what are those people waiting for? And the general director said, they're waiting for jobs. So they were getting paychecks for 3,000 women, which are 3,000 families, and producing a product that just happened to save lives by the thousands. And I thought, that is a brilliant business model. I want to copy that, but in a different way.
And so, of course, now you have the factory in Providence as well, and I know there's some reasons for that. But explain to me, how does it work as a business? I keep going back and forth between saying it's a nonprofit and saying it's a business, because it's kind of both, right? It sounds like a business model with your factory. You have up-to-date standards and everything, but your final purpose is to get this food out there.
Exactly. I mean, you could call us a social enterprise as well. We really are a hybrid model, and one of my goals was to not depend solely on fundraising, to spend our energy and our time looking at efficiencies. How can we do things better, faster, cheaper? We watch every single dollar really carefully to make sure that we have the lowest cost anywhere. And by doing that, we have a double bottom line that we can reach more children with the same dollars. And to me, that's the most important thing that we can focus on, is how to get more out there for less.
I have to say, I know a number of people who visited your factory, and I always hear they come away wowed by its so state of the art and the way it looks, and it's in this nondescript area of the city here in Providence. Why the factory in Rhode Island, and why make the food here?
Well, I guess it's as simple as this is my home, and so I wanted to set up here. And at the time that we opened the factory, Rhode Island was #2 with the highest unemployment rates in the United States.
Which unfortunately we are again as of last week.
Oh, well, that's, yeah. So I guess we continue to grow in the jobs economy. But I began to realize the importance of job creation in small businesses in my own backyard. And if we could combine that with helping people halfway around the planet, then we've done really two goods at once.
Newsweek had also a fascinating piece a few years ago about this enterprise, saying that there's very strict rules in U.S. law currently about where money that's put up by Congress from taxpayers for food aid can go. And it sounded like part of the reason to create a factory in the U.S. is because you can access a different flow of investing and funding to make this food, right?
Right. Yeah. So we set up factories. We have factories all over Africa because we believe that we should have local sources near malnutrition hotspots. It's very important to try and help other countries become sustainable and not force dependence on U.S. Food aid. At the same time, having a factory here does allow us to access the dollars set aside for those U.S. businesses. It also gives us a chance to do work on research and development and really focus on innovation. That's something that's much more challenging in a factory in Tanzania than it is in Providence. We have universities around that we can collaborate with and look at new products. What areas are we not addressing, and what do we need to work on that can fill some of those gaps?
All right, we're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the factory and Edesia's plans to expand here in Rhode Island. Stick with us on Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi, and I'm joined by Edesia founder and executive director Navyn Salem. And we were talking before about your employees and your factory. I know you've been talking about expanding. So what's the size of your factory right now? Who's working there, and what's the plan moving ahead?
So our current factory is about 15,000 square feet, and we're looking to expand to about 100,000 square feet.
Wow.
So
that's a massive increase.
Quite a jump. But at the same time, it's a very slow, where we'll grow into that space slowly.
Have you found a space yet? Do you think you'll be staying in Rhode Island?
We'll be staying in Rhode Island.
You're confident of that?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And your employees, it's fascinating. You had, I think, about 50 at the moment before you
Right.
start adding in new ones for the new factory.
Yep.
A lot of them are refugees themselves, right?
Right, right. I love that concept that we're kind of able to bring things full circle. And we have employees from at least 21 different countries, if not more, speaking at least that many languages as well. And many of my employees have lived in refugee camps, some 5 years, some 15 years. And they bring these stories with them that are so interesting to listen to. They really understand the problem better than I do, or most of the rest of us do. To understand what it feels like to depend on aid when your country is in the middle of a war is really important to understand. And it also brings about a culture of why I need to be here, why quality is so important, why being on time and getting all of our orders done on time is so critical, because there's someone on the other end waiting for us to provide with something that's good quality and on time.
You've seen starving kids back home. You know where this food is ending up and who needs it.
That's enough for you to understand the motivator.
So if we're at about 50 now, do you have any target where you think your employee level will end up?
I'm not sure yet, but we'll definitely be adding.
Being coy. All
Yes.
right, well, that's all right. We can. I can appreciate that. Now, is that also a bad sign, though, that there's so much demand for your products? Is that a sign that hunger is rising, or is it more just there was already so much hunger and you're just trying to scale up to the level of the problem?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We're trying to not be producing as much plumpy'nut as we are now. What we'd prefer to do is work on these more preventative products. If we can intervene during the first 1,000 days of life when a body and a brain is developing, and something like this only costs 10 cents, then we're able to make an impact that's lifelong. Mm-hmm. And so we're trying to advocate for more early intervention. And if we don't intervene with those micronutrients at that age, the results are irreversible. We can never regain that cognitive ability to learn. And to have kids who can't go to school and can't learn and can't get jobs later in life, that's what we've got to pay attention to.
So if you sent plumpy'nut to 3 and 4-year-olds, you can't get them back to where they could have been if you'd gotten to some of them.
Right. Certainly after the age of 5, we've lost them, and so we cannot wait that long.
So people are going to be listening. It's a time here people think about giving. They're thinking about charitable giving and that sort of thing. What can people do to help? I know you have a Donate Now button on your website. Are there other things people can do if they want to help?
Sure. I mean, I think on Facebook, definitely learning a little bit about what's going outside of the bubble in Rhode Island. Our Facebook is quite interactive. You can come for tours to see how everything's made. Definitely donate. We use the funds very wisely. And lastly, we have a new product with a partner called This Bar Saves Lives. And it's a 1-for-1 model. And if you buy one of these, then we have to make a sachet of plumpy'nut. And we have potentially our first airlift going out to the Philippines, where enough bars were sold to equal enough of these products to be shipped to the Philippines, where there are children who are severely malnourished.
That is
out
pretty
there.
cool. Where can people buy these around here?
Right
anywhere?
now, you have to go online to
Okay.
This Bar Saves Lives, and we're trying to get distribution more visible here on the East Coast soon. But it originated on the West Coast with 2 of my actor friends.
Oh, gotcha. Maybe someone with the grocers watching can look into
Exactly.
stocking this here. What about the question of in the USA? Is it, you know, thank God we don't see quite, I think, the level of malnutrition you see in some of the countries you're working
Right.
in the U.S. But there are places where people are, you know, are having a difficult time getting nutritious food. I mean, do you see any role for this kind of thing in the U.S.?
Yeah, I think there is a role for it, and we're looking for the right partners in trying to get the right application and looking at what the nutritional needs of children in the U.S. are. Obviously, we struggle more with malnutrition in the form of obesity here, and so we can definitely take this concept and turn it around and maybe work with a backpack program. Children who rely on reduced lunches at school or free lunch at school, don't have food on the weekends, perhaps there's something that we can provide in that context. But we're looking for the right partners to roll out these types of products in the correct way that would suit American kids, and hoping to start right here in Rhode Island.
Do you think having a business background, you bring a somewhat different starting points to some of the work you do? I mean, it's work for good, it's charitable work in a classic way we can all think about and relate to. But you're talking about sustainability. You're talking about plans for growth. It sounds as much like some of the business people I have on.
It is exactly. There's nothing really different other than we are very. We hold to our mission in everything that we do, and that comes first and foremost. And I think that if you're trying to do good, then you'll do well at the same time. And I think that's why Edesia is growing and thriving, is because we know that there's a need out there. We're filling that need, and we're doing it as efficiently and smart as we can.
You've been praised all over for this work. We had Bill Clinton there. I've read it in New York Times Magazine was the first time I learned about the work you were doing here in Rhode Island. Do you have any thoughts on, you know, the Rhode Island economy? How to you know, as I just said, unfortunately, our job growth is still weak despite the efforts of you and other entrepreneurs. What have you learned and seen in your couple of years doing this now?
I mean, I think small businesses are the key to our success here in Rhode Island. Social enterprises, especially. I think we have a lot of individuals here in the state who are motivated and driven behind that concept as well. So I hope to see those continue to grow, and other people try to do that as well.
And where's the website if people want to learn more?
It's www.edesiaglobal.org.
All right, so when maybe you're watching this, you're still stuffed from Thanksgiving dinner, but a little more about food, log on to Edesia and find out about the work they're doing. Very cool here in Providence, and we'll be watching for news about the expansion. So thank you for being here, Navyn.
Thank you.
And be sure to tune in next week when we're going to have Christine Ferguson. She's the Executive Director of Health Source RI. She'll be giving us an update on how the new health law will impact businesses here in Rhode Island. If you missed any of this show or any other episode of Executive Suite, you can always catch those on WPRI.com. I hope you and your family had a very happy Thanksgiving and have a good holiday season coming up, and I'll see you back here next week. Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.